Now, one of the most pivotal House races that's still undecided is now heading for a ranked choice runoff. This is in Maine. The state's second congressional district is too close to call. As of right now, Republicans hold 212 seats, Democrats 201. A party must hold 218 seats to secure the majority. So Republicans need to pick up 7 more seats to retain power. Maine's second congressional district race is between incumbent Congressman Jared Golden and Republican Austin Theriault. Golden holds a slight lead of just over 2,000 votes, and according to NBC News, he's received just over 50%. But the Maine Secretary of State's office said last night that according to the latest numbers, neither candidate received a majority. So what happens now? Well, it triggered the ranked choice tabulation, which will begin next week. That means the second choice votes of those who did not pick either candidate as their first choice will now be added to their totals for the votes. Theriault has already requested a recount, which would take place then after the runoff. All right, let's bring in NBC 10 political commentator.
Also known as one potato, two potato.
Right. Very nice. Sue O'Connell, if you don't know who she is. Sue, when we go back to the presidential race,
yeah,
Democrats, they were banking on young people, also women. A good chunk of both those groups went for Trump. Harris was talking about gun violence, the climate, reproductive freedoms. That was all important to young people and women. It didn't translate to votes. What went wrong?
So, JC, I think there's a big headline of what went wrong, and that was the lack of a primary process for the Democrats. That's what went wrong. Now, look, I'll remind people that both parties can do whatever they want to get the nomination any way they want to do it. So Harris's nomination was completely legit. But had President Biden announced that he was only going to serve one term, or if he had actually campaigned against his primary challengers, he actually had primary challengers. Anybody remember Representative Dean Phillips, or that Robert Kennedy Jr. was actually a Democrat? If he had been able to have a primary process, the Democrats would have been able to get valuable information from what voters were thinking and then craft their message based on that. But without that important intel, it doesn't matter what they were saying. Harris was flying blind.
Well, if you look, which is what we do, 4 years down the road already, you know J.D. Vance seems to be heir apparent in the Republican Party because he's going to become vice president. Vice President Harris, she's still young. She's obviously successful and talented. Does she have a place moving forward in the party?
Yep, sure, JC. Let's go back in time a little bit. Remember Richard Nixon? He was the vice president to President Dwight Eisenhower, and Nixon ran for president to John F. Kennedy, and he lost. And then he ran for governor of California, and then he lost. And then he ran again for president in 1968, and he won. The rest didn't go so well for him, but at least he won the presidency. So Harris could indeed run for president again, or run for Senate again, or run for governor in California if somebody else like Newsom runs for president. Or she could enter the private sector. Look, there's plenty of future ahead for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's worried about a future. It's like, what is the future? And now so much talk about rebuilding the Democratic Party. I mean, it's something you talk about after every party loses a presidential race. There's a lot of talk about this one. So what is, as you would think, a proper political party postmortem look like? What are they talking about?
So, JC, everyone knows what happened after it happened, and everyone's an expert on what everybody should have done. And frankly, as important as it is to examine the dead body here, I'm not sure the parties exactly learn anything. And the situation the parties were in this campaign is never going to happen again. And both parties have been making the same mistakes anyway for decades. So color me cynical. I don't think there's any lessons that they will actually learn.
That's a great point. That dynamic is
never going to happen again. So whatever we fix, not going to happen again.
Sue O'Connell, as always, thanks for your input. Don't forget to catch At Issue every Sunday morning. Join Sue and Corey and Matt, and as they get caught up on all of the latest political headlines, national and local, it airs at 11:30 immediately following Meet the Press. All right, stay right there. We'll be right back.